again, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast of the Spirit Channel. It is my absolute delight and pleasure to have you back here once again, joining me for another episode. Let's see what we're going to talk about today. While you're here, get yourself comfortable, pull up a seat, put a blanket around you. Cup of tea is ready, or coffee if you'd like. Sit down and make yourself coffee. Do you realise how amazing you are? Do you realise how stupendously incredible that you are? Do you realise how unbelievably lucky, fortunate, if they're the right words, I guess. If you believe in fate, then there really is no such luck. But do you realise what an amazing person, how incredible that you actually are? Now, if you're listening to this here and saying to yourself, well, when I look at myself, I don't particularly see that or feel that about me. All I see is my faults, my flaws. But look, we're not here to talk about that today. We've talked about that on numerous occasions, about how you're meant to be flawed and that no one's perfect, and this is the nature of the game. And to learn to love those flaws, to learn to love those things about ourselves, because without them we would have nothing to strive to be better for. So we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what an incredible person you are, what an amazing person you are, and it just astounds me. It really does astound me when I think about each of you who are listening to this episode. Why, you might ask? Well, because you're here. Because you're here and you're actually listening to this information. Because you're listening to my words. This podcast is not about me. This podcast was never about me. It's about you, dear listener. It's about you. It was always about you. I am only talking. You're the one who are taking, hopefully, some benefit of this, some inspiration from this, some new learning from this, and putting what I have talked about into practice. This podcast is all about you. It was always all about you. The fact that you're here now listening to this is just such a miracle. And that does not mean to say that the words that I impart are miraculous or that I'm amazing. It's the very fact that you're here listening to something like this here. You have to consider this here, is that we look back along your life journey. Were you always into truth seeking? Were you always into spirituality? Were you in this far? Did you have as much of an idea, of an understanding about the concept of reality as you do have now, hopefully? If you did, absolutely fantastic, amazing. I applaud you. If not, well, then that's enough to make you incredibly fortunate, incredibly amazing for getting this far. When you consider the barriers to learning, the barriers to growth in this world, when we look out into the world and we think about the people that we know, the people who we are in close contact with, how many of them people can you confide in, or do you confide in about your interests, about what it is that you listen to? Do you tell them that you sit and listen to a podcast which is all about spiritual information, about karma, about catalyst, about meditation, about the nature of reality, about life after death? Do you tell people about that? Do you get the opportunity to tell people about that? What about people in your workplace? Do you tell them? Or do you just don't, well, maybe not hide that aspect of yourself, but just don't talk about it? Because when we look at the entire world around us, it's only a small percentage of that entire world population who understand things like this, who have really opened themselves up or have been awakened to knowledge about spirituality, about the type of spiritual information that I talk about. There are many people out there who would consider themselves spiritual, and many people out there who I know have what we would call spiritual abilities, like people who do psychic readings, people who do mediumship, people who do channeling or trance information like that, people who heal, people with a whole range of psychokinetic abilities who still do not understand what this is all about. They just simply do what they do and that's it. They don't think about it, or if they do, it's a very limited form of spirituality. So the fact that you're here now listening to the information that I have to impart makes that an incredible achievement in your life. You have to consider also is that before birth, when you're kind of hanging around in what we would call the spirit world, which is kind of the astral plane of our planet, we decide what life that we want to have. Hanging around, if you like. It's not quite hanging around, but you're still learning, you're still deciding. At some point anyway, in your evolution, when you're not in the physical form, you are potentially deciding upon your next incarnation, what lessons that you need to learn, what type of life that you would like to lead, what encounters that you have, what events that are going to come into your life. And this is decided, and from my understanding, it's not just you, it's you and your guides, your higher self, your whole extended range of people, potential family members and stuff like that, that you've incarnated with before in some form or another. And when all this is decided and you decided the type of life and this is all agreed with and everyone is kind of ready to make that quantum jump back into a physical body again to lead a lifetime, you have to pass through what has been termed a veil of forgetfulness. You have to undergo amnesia, so that when you're born again into a human body, you're going to forget all about this. You're going to forget everything that you decided upon, everything that you learned, all this advanced knowledge that you have, all these incredible abilities that you have. You're going to forget that you even are a being of light, a true spiritual being. You're going to forget all of that when you come into a human body again. And not many people in this world currently remember any of that. Some people maybe get glimpses, some people maybe have odd memories, but for the majority of people, there's just a kind of unsatisfaction or a feeling of maybe more, but because we're all separate, because we don't remember that much, because no one really, well, that's actually not quite true. There is a lot of information out there, but I guess what I'm trying to turn around and say is that most people don't encounter this information within their lives, and all they are told is what science tells them, material science. Now, I know that is changing, but for the vast majority of this existence, we have been told that by material scientists that unless it can be measured, unless it can be verified, unless it can be witnessed, then it's not real. The idea of consciousness, of an existence of a higher power, a God, a creator, was kind of poo-pooed for a long time and still really isn't accepted within the mainstream scientific community. We are beginning to understand that consciousness is something that operates outside of the physical body, but we're still a long way from that at the minute. So most people go throughout their entire lives simply believing about science. How many people out there that you know do not believe in the existence of life after death? How many people ridicule the idea of an existence of God? How many people laugh at the face or in the face of someone who maybe talks about someone like Jesus or Buddha or something like that. And again, a lot of this is a fault of our religious institutions. We're not being taught the correct way of things. We're being told a limited version of reality. And so, is it any wonder that people ridicule this here? Is it any wonder that people ridicule people who openly talk about and discuss their spirituality? So for you to have led a life of potentially not knowing anything about this, of growing up in a harsh physical world where, as I said, this really isn't talked about, certainly not in the country that I live. And I'm sure that's similar for most of you, or perhaps you had heard of it, heard of people who have these abilities, or people who talk about a spirit world and never really paid it much heed because you knew nothing about it. You weren't ready for it yet. So for you to have led a life like that there, to have grown up in a world where materialism is highly valued, where you're told that the only thing that matters in life is to make sure that you have money and to make sure that you succeed in the rat race, to accumulate as much wealth as you can, to have good material things, to have grown up in a world like that there, and then eventually to potentially start to maybe change or begin to feel that you're unsatisfied with that there, and to start searching or seeking out information or knowledge that will satisfy this emptiness within inside you. And potentially, as I said, if for people who have not been spiritual throughout their entire lives, to come across and maybe stumble across something that starts to make sense, and to have it set off a fire, if you like, a wildfire in your heart, where you really begin to feel that this is a path that you're on, and to hopefully then have potentially ended up here listening to this podcast. What are the odds? What are the absolute odds out of the billions of people in this world who have absolutely no idea about any of this, who not even think about the bigger questions in life? Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? What happens after I die? Why am I born like this here? Many people go their entire lives without even considering that. I always think about it as like people who have, people who are on maybe a factory line or something like that. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. And whose only existence, whose only reality is what's in front of them on the assembly line. But for someone then to potentially go, this just doesn't feel right, and to have lifted their eyes from that assembly line and looked up for the first time in their life and realised that there is more to life than just that assembly line, to have seen colours and seen beautiful vistas and pictures and images and a whole host of things, that person is never ever going to be satisfied with simply looking down and staring at the assembly line, which in my mind is grey and just contains the same small grey box, never changing. You're never going to be satisfied with that again. To know that there's a whole world out there, to know that there's incredible things beyond the small grey package that comes along with maddeningly, dullingly, tediously regularity and repetitiveness, and to want to escape that, and to want to tell their co-workers to lift their heads up and to potentially no, this is all there is. You just have to keep your eyes on the package. What are the odds? What are the absolute odds that this could have happened to you? That you're here now listening to this, taking this in. It's potentially runs into the millions, if not billions. To have understood all that, to understand all of this now, it makes you an incredible person. It makes you such an amazing person. And you should give yourself a clap on the back. Obviously that's almost physically impossible, but as best you can, or even metaphorically, give yourself a clap on the back. Celebrate yourself. Tell yourself that you are amazing, and this is why I'm telling you that you are an amazing person, that you are such an incredibly special, talented, unique person to have realized this, to have awakened within this life, to have that understanding and that knowing that there is more to life, to understand your existence, to understand what it all means. Out of all the people that it could have happened to, it happened to you. It happened to you. And it's okay that you don't know everything. It's okay that I don't know anything. But at least you're on the path. You are on the path. You're on the path to self-discovery, to knowledge, to greater awareness. And you can spend the rest of your life learning. It doesn't matter how much you know or how little you know. The fact is that you're on the path, and that is something that is so incredible, so absolutely amazing, that I can't help but feel such immense pleasure on your behalf, such immense happiness and emotion and love for you as a listener to this podcast, to listen to this show. It really does make my heart swell, because that's what gives me immense gratitude and satisfaction in my life. Being able to help other people. It's not about me. It's not about, oh, look, I know all this, or having an ego about this, or whatever. It's being able to give something back. It's just such a delight, such a thrill, such an absolute pleasure, an honor even, to be able to help someone else, even if it's only one other person. If only one other person gets everything that I'm saying, that's one other person out of all the billions of people in this world. Now, as I said, not all of the billions, but there is billions of people out there who aren't awake, who aren't aware of this. And so it's such an incredible achievement. And the thing about it is that once you kind of understand what this life is all about, it's about a choice. We have a choice in this life. We have a choice whether we are going to help other people, or we're going to help people as best we can, or whether we're just going to be selfish and think of ourselves. When we look out in the world today, we see that much selfishness. We see how many people think to themselves, well, it's all about me. Think about maybe when you're driving, when you're shopping, when people do actions or events happen in which leave you frustrated or leave you just feeling a little bit sad inside. Someone cuts you up in traffic, someone doesn't acknowledge you, someone doesn't signal you, people walk out in front of you, people at the grocery store, potentially with maybe a shopping trolley full of groceries, and maybe you're behind with one or two items in your basket, and they look back and don't even think to say, look, why don't you go ahead of me, because I'm going to be a while and you're obviously going to be very quick. Just anything like that there, just ignorance, people just constantly thinking for themselves. Not willing to help maybe a neighbour down the street, someone who's elderly, who potentially could be doing with a hand with maybe, I don't know, getting their groceries taken for them, or perhaps needing some repairs around the house, or just even offering to that person, look, is there anything maybe you need? Anything like that there, anything that, you think could maybe help someone or better someone's life. And you see everyone around you who hasn't done that, who hasn't made that effort, who hasn't just opened their mouths to offer their help in any sort of way, or just to take a step back and let someone else be in the queue in front of them, because they're going to be very, very quick. Or I'm struggling to think anything, helping someone across the road, giving someone directions, stopping to smile at a stranger, to speak to that person on the checkout as if they're a human being, to ask them how their day is, to wish their day is filled with happiness or joy. Just spread love about a bit. Just simply stop doing what you're doing and even just send or spread love out. But how many people don't do that? How many people don't do that? And so we have a choice in life. It is by this choice that determines the outcome of our lives and our spiritual growth, and not only in this life but future lives that we may have upon this planet. Everything is very much orientated towards growth, because even when we pass over, we don't rest. The whole purpose of all of this is to make our way back to the great maker, the great creator. And we need to do this by realizing our creatorness within ourselves. So although we may think that, once we cross over, it's the be all and end all, it is far from the be all and end all. We still have so much growth, so much learning, so much spiritual mass to gain before we reach that ultimate step of reunification with the Creator. But at this stage of our journey, everything is determined by choice. It is our actions upon this planet which determine where we go and how much spiritual growth we get. And by where we go, I mean where we go in our next lives. Whether it be this earth or somewhere else. You see, the earth itself is changing. We are in a unique period of history in which the entire earth itself is beginning to change. So in the past, we may have had souls or spirits who have attained enough spiritual mass or enough spiritual experience, enough spiritual growth that they did not need to reincarnate into a physical body anymore. They were destined for the higher levels. But now we have reached a point in the Earth's history where the Earth itself, as an entire being, as a planetary body, is at the point where it will no longer sustain human life as we know it. It will no longer sustain our old way of living. And so anyone who is not ready for this new earth, this new state of being, will not be able to return to this planetary body. They will have to reincarnate into another lifetime, into another planet that is capable of supporting that old way of living, that third dimensional way of living. And as I said, the way in which we make ourselves ready, if we so desire to inhabit this new earth, which will be like a paradise, it will be like a heaven on earth, is by the choice, is by the actions that we take. And as I said before, there are two ways in which, well, I didn't say before, but there are two ways of this choice. One is a life which is led in service to other people, and the other is a life of pure and utter selfishness. Pure and utter selfishness. Now, this may seem a bit strange, that either way makes you ready, or you've achieved enough spiritual growth in order to inhabit this new earth. But just let me clarify that this is not quite the case. Those who have lived a life of dedication, those who have lived a life of service to their fellow human beings, of humanity, will, if they have spent at least half of their lives in service to other people, in dedication to humanity, to helping those other people up the spiritual ladder, up the spiritual rung, will make the grade, will be ready to reincarnate into this new beautiful earth that's coming. Those who have lived a life of pure and utter selfishness, almost complete and utter selfishness, manipulation, all that sort of negativity, will indeed make the grade to this new vibration, but not on the earth that we know. It's not just a new earth, it's a new vibration. It's a new vibration of existence, a new vibration of consciousness. So, as I said before, anyone who had previously lived a life like that would have made the grade, but they were not able to come to this planet again, because this planet has not been spiritually prepared enough for that. So fortunately they had to go elsewhere, to a planet that was capable of supporting this new vibration. Those who have lived a life of almost complete and utter negativity will also go to a new vibration. It's a vibration of love and understanding, but instead of being a vibration where people of a positive, of service to other people would inhabit, they would go to a place of self-love and self-understanding. So like a different, almost like a different dimension. So it's still a vibration of love, but it's a vibration of self-love, of complete and utter narcissism, where they continue and carry on in that regard, in that manner. Thankfully, the new earth that's coming, the new earth that's entering into this new vibration, the planet itself moves into this vibration rather than just individuals. The planet itself moves into a vibration where it is of light and of love and of caring and of service to other people. It is going to be like a heaven on earth. So those people who would qualify in a negative sense for moving into this vibration of love, of self-love, will not be inhabiting this new earth, this new beautiful, beautiful earth that's coming. So I hope that's clear. Clear enough. I will elaborate on it in future episodes. But sorry, my mind's just went blank there. Yes, so this is why I'm saying that you're special, that you are unique, that you are to be applauded because of this very, very special time. Because you have come to spirituality, because you have come to this recording, this audio at this stage in your life, at this very, very special time, at this point in history. Now, it's not just, or I shouldn't say, while it is extremely good, extremely beneficial to humanity and to yourself to be of service to other people, to help people out whenever you can, the best way, the most effective way to do this is to be of service to yourself. Now, do not mistake that for the narcissist, the negative path. This service to yourself is to work on yourself, is to grow yourself, is to shine and become the embodiment of the perfect being that you can imagine yourself to be. To realize that perfectness, that wholeness, that positive, shining example to humanity of what we can be at our best. To promote an attitude of love, honesty, truthfulness, forgiving, empathy, all those amazing, fantastic qualities that we would associate perhaps with some of the best gurus and yogis and teachers and past masters and oracles and what's the word? Oh my goodness, it's completely went out of my head. Messiahs, I guess. Messiahs, yes, that's the word I'm looking for. So try to live a life like that there. And what we do when we work on ourselves like that is that we change aspects about ourselves. We grow, we create spiritual mass. We bring forth more of that deeper spiritual nature of ourselves that we normally only have when we pass on this physical reality. And we bring more of that into this lifetime that we are now experiencing. We shine our light even further, and that inspires people. You do not have to be out shouting this from the rooftops. You do not have to be out telling people about this. You can simply be, and people will pick up on that vibration. People will pick up on it on you because they will see you, they will see the changes within you, they will feel it from you, and they will want that. They will want that for themselves, because you will no longer be bogged down as much by events and situations that perhaps caused you to lower your vibration or to get embroiled and bogged down in negativity. These things will no longer affect you as much. And people who are still affected by this will want what you have, and so they will be inspired to change themselves. And so this is how we can start raising humanity and helping humanity for this great change. Because as I said before, we have to dedicate ourselves to a life of service. And if we haven't made those grades, if we haven't made those changes within our life, then unfortunately we are doomed to repeat yet more lifetimes living out the same circumstances and the same actions until we have obtained enough of this growth in our lives. And as I said, the people, it's not just the people who have decided to live a life of pure and utter negativity. Perhaps we may call those people a New World Order, a cabal, a Illuminati, whatever it is that you want to call them. But it's also those people who have fallen by the wayside, fallen between the cracks. If you like, I think the Ra being termed it the sinkhole of indifference, which is a very good term. What this means is that most people will live a life of, they'll do one positive action. One positive action inspires spiritual growth. But then perhaps they follow that up with a negative reaction or a not so positive action, and therefore it kind of wipes out or negates the positive or spiritual action that they've done. So they're not actually changing, they're not actually moving, so they're stuck in that halfway point, they're stuck in that thing. And so Because they're not inspired to change, then apathy sinks in, and because apathy sinks in, they're no longer seeking, they're no longer ascending, and they're just sinking further and further into the mire, into this sinkhole. And when we look around the world today, as we talked about in the start of this podcast, we can see so many people who are mired in the sinkhole of indifference. They have no idea about this. They are simply orientated on material things. And as a wise person once said, we enter this world with nothing, we leave this world with nothing. So what's the big hurry and what's the big wish to obtain things that are not lasting? And so this is what Ra meant by the sinkhole of indifference. And another very good point of that is that we are constantly being given opportunities and hints for growth. And as I said, one way of that is by these catalytic events that come into our lives, these very deep, sometimes traumatic events that are designed to stop us in our tracks because we haven't listened to the messages in our mind. So very traumatic events are the outcome of that there, and these are an opportunity for us to pay attention to what's important in the world, what's real in the world. And unfortunately, still a lot of people do not associate that with that, and so these opportunities for growth, these spiritual opportunities, become less and less until we, as I said, spiritual apathy sinks in, and they just sink further and further down into the sinkhole. So unfortunately, those people have chosen neither path, and because of that, they are doomed then to just repeat the wheel of karma that becomes karmically involved, and they have become doomed to repeat the cycle of reincarnation. But as I said, because the very planet itself is moving into this new vibration of pure positive light and love and understanding, then these people will have to reincarnate as an alien, if you like, somewhere else, somewhere in another planetary system or another galaxy which supports our old way of being. So I hope this is clear enough. I've probably left out half a dozen points that I wanted to talk about, but this is just the nature of this. And so this is why it is so amazing that you have come to this point in your life, that you have reached this through everything that has been put against you, all the barriers, all of the walls, all of the detours, all of the distractions, that your life before you were born, in the spirit world, in the astral planes, through that veil of forgetting, right up and through your early childhood, into whatever age that you are now. It doesn't really matter. The point is that you've reached this point, and now you can take steps along this path of knowing what it is that you need to do. And so for that, I want to thank you. I want to tell you what beautiful souls that you actually are, how amazing you are, how incredible you are, and how I am so privileged to be speaking to you today, you the listener who have made this journey here to listen to me ramble on quite a bit. So I hope and pray and will constantly wish all of you who listen to this, and anyone else who may be drawn to this podcast, that you too will hopefully join me in this new vibration, this new beautiful earth that is coming despite everything that's happening in the world. What we are seeing is the collective catalyst unfolding in the world. This is what's happening with all this negativity. Ra did turn around and say that there would be a sharp rise in negativity before this new vibration, this new planetary shift unfolds. It's already here. It's already here, folks. It's just that humanity hasn't reached that state of consciousness, hasn't quite caught up with the consciousness of the planet yet, but it is here coexisting with our current Earth. It can be sought, it can be seen, it can be felt. If you put into practice all those spiritual techniques and guides that I've talked about before, if you start leading a life in service, and as I said, yes, go out into the world and certainly help in whatever way you can, but also remember that the best way to do this is to work on yourself, grow yourself, become that idolized, self-realized, light-filled being that you truly are. Remember every day that you are special. Remember every day that you are powerful. You can have an impact into this world. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You wouldn't be here listening to this podcast if you weren't such an incredible, amazing person. So think of a mantra. Write it down. Tell yourself something. I wrote one down which was based around the Saint Germain I ams. I'll include it in the link. Write down your own and tell yourself it every day. Tell yourself how amazing you are. And so, listener, so you beautiful people who are listening to this, I'm going to take my leave of you. And hopefully you'll join me, hopefully next week, when we return with yet another episode of the podcast.